All right. So we experienced some network issues at the other one. So we created a new link to start with. So we're starting all over afresh with this training, which is under talent selection. So now, why exactly are we considering this? This is the closing part of the recruiter training. And the essence is now that we have conducted interviews, we've moved from all the sections of the introduction to recruitment, that's interview, screening and interviewing. Now we're talking about talent selection. We have multiple people now that we want to choose from. So after we have interviewed, we have, let's say we have 20 people that are very, very good. So how then do we downsize further to the best number of people, to the top five presented to the management? As a recruiter, you're going to be having this challenge. So now, how then do you do this? That's the essence of this training today. Now, at the end of this training, we expect that you should be very good with profile selection, have a good judgment with that, be able to conduct reference check excellently well. Then you do the background verification to ascertain that these particular candidates have no baggages they're coming in with. Who should attend this training? Of course, we expect that you have an interest in human resource management. That's why you're taking this class. Then at the end of this training, we expect that you should understand the process of candidate selection, conducting the reference check, and as well as verifying the selected profiles. Okay, now before we go into the class, we're going to the section that selection process one. Now, so what do we do? It's very clear for me. I will state again that if you have any questions, please just type them down at the just type them down at the comment section. When we are done with the class, I'm going to take all the questions together at once. Okay, so now selection. I said earlier, establishing that selection is just finding the right person from that downside um, numbers that you have. That's that 20 people. Now remember, you have over 1,000 applications, but you have worked and worked and worked and worked, interviewed, and now you have 20 top people that you have. How then do you now choose from that 20 people to say, okay, this is we're going to forward this top five to the management? That's what we're discussing now. Part of the things that you can do is use a selection criteria, another selection criteria this time around, to downsize that 20 to a number to a five, top five that you want to send to management. Some of the things that you are going to be considering is the essential skills that are required for the role. Okay, do they have the essential skills that are required for the role? Then also the realistic requirements. Those do they have these requirements? So whoever has the essential skills, whoever has the realistic requirements, then also who among these people have the skills that are needed in the future of this role. So if you find someone amongst them, that means this person is scaling, this person has scaled and has gotten to the next stage. Then talk about specialty skills. Who among these top 20, who among these 20 people has specialty skills that is beneficial to the organization? This will also help to downsizing further to the top five that we want to send to the management. Then the reports from the reference check is very, very imperative. The reports to the reference check. So when this report on the reference check is conducted by you. Of course, you are the one that is doing the interview as the recruiter. You definitely would also conduct the reference check. We will discuss subsequently how you can handle the reference check. Then the background verification report. We expect that you should be able to do the background verification report as well to ensure that they don't have baggages from where they're coming. Then the scorecard assessment report as well. So these things, by the time you consider these top 7 points, you'll find out that you are able to downsize further from that 20 to the top five, of course. So this list from both your scorecard, the background verification, reference checks, your specialty skills, future skills needed, that's the realistic requirement, and as well as the essential skills that are required for the role. By the time you check all this, you can be able to see the top people who are ranking highest among that top 20, among the 20 good profiles that you have. And from there, you can get to your five that will be forwarded to management. Now, some of the things that you also want to be looking out for when you are selecting this top five is why did they leave their previous places of work? where they have been working before. Why did they leave? It is important to note that why they left where they were working. Then how did they leave in the previous places where they have worked? Did they just resign abruptly and just walk away, or how did they leave? Would they get into a fight? Whatever it is, was there a problem? Was there a case of theft? Was there a case of mismanagement of funds and the rest of that? Then these are the kind of things you want to pay close attention to. How they left. Did they live on good note? Then talk about staying power. Staying power is very, very much important. Where that if these people check their profiles, okay, what's the number of the maximum or the minimum number of time that they have changed um, jobs. So if does this person change jobs frequently in 2 years? That's on an average. They change jobs in 2 years, in 3 years, in 5 years, or they are changing jobs every year. A year and 6 months is the average. So we want to get the people with the highest average. So people with with high frequency of changing jobs, of course, is a red flag for them. They will be scaling this particular one. Then previous work records. These are very much important. What they were able to accomplish for previous organizations that they worked for. These particular cases are these are the red flags that you want to pay close attention to. When you see any of these that are not so great, then there's no point. You just want to downsize further from that. You want to remove them from that 20 because what you're looking for now is top 5 people that will be forwarded to the management for approval. Okay, then we'll go ahead to say then the common pitfall that you also need to pay close attention to. Remember, we've talked about the criteria, we talked about the red flags. Now, there are pitfalls that you also need to be very careful about. Bad impressions. So that's during the interview process. Then talk about the poor skills assessment. Ensure that their skills are properly assessed or they are rightly assessed. The methodologies are there. Of course, there's a standard method of assessing and the skills of every of the candidates. You must ensure that you follow that particular standard. Then talk about neglecting reference. Please do not neglect reference because you're expected to get information from the reference. More importantly, we said that yesterday that if the candidate did not provide their reference, ensure that you ask for the reference. Ask for the reference. You can via an email. Just reply the email and ask for the reference, such that it is documented and you can reach out to the reference and get the information that you want. Then the structured process, of course, we have a structured process where we ensure that you follow the process that has been laid down. So, but there are some organizations that you may be sent to and they don't have a process. So, but you must ensure that as a recruiter, there's a pattern, a structure that is being followed to ensure that we arrive at the end of to ensure that we arrive at the quality of the candidate that is required for the organization. Okay, then overly lengthy process. These are not but they're not practically good for an interview when the interview process is overly lengthy from one place to the other one. That's if the people have to be interviewed, they have to visit the office space for over 5 times. So what then is the issue? Why not conduct these things virtually then? When it is very concrete, then they can start making physical appearances. Of course, the rules are there. That's for choice talent. We're talking about other organizations. Should you find yourself in those places if you're going to be forwarded there? Then, when you work for trust, and at the end of the day, you find out that you have to follow the rules that have been laid down by the organization. Okay, so now let's go ahead to talk about the next one under that, which is the summary on this. So, of course, it is when you are about to select from this top 20, so in order to get the top 5 that is reported to management, you have to pay attention to the application. Now, you want to ensure that they actually applied. They did not apply. You have to ask them to go and apply. That's in the end, why I said that is sometimes you can get a reference. Somebody sends you a CV, somebody refers someone to you. Now remember they may not have applied they may not have applied properly. So in that instance, you must ensure that they apply that they send in the application if they were referred or if gave you their CV and rest of that. So you must ensure that they apply that's appropriately. Then go ahead to talk about screening. Ensure that the screening has been put, they were screened. Then go ahead to talk about their skills assessment. A proper skill assessment was done to ensure that they have the skills that are required. Then shortlisting. Want to be certain that during the shortlisting process, remember talk about the criteria, talk about the scorecard that it is transparent enough. Then the interviewing, how the interview process was done, the report, of course, of that interview. Then go ahead to talk about the reference check. the reference check. Of course, we're going to discuss further on that reference check in the subsequent modules. Then background check. Then finally the decisions and the job offer. These are the selection summary of how it works, and of course of what is expected of you when you are working with the organization. Okay, I think that's said. If you have your questions, just put keep a note. We'll take all the questions at once. So at this stage, let us move to the second one, which is which is on reference check. Let's discuss and understand what reference check is all about. So move to the slide 2. Now, the reference check. What exactly is reference check? It is about getting reports from the supervisors that they have worked with before, previous supervisors or subordinates that these applicants or these candidates have worked with before. If they are people that they have worked with, so you want to get information about them, about their conduct, about how like everything. You want to get to know that candidate from a different perspective, from a perspective of people that they have been with before. That's why when we talked about that reference yesterday, it was I specifically said that reference is very, very much important when it is coming from a workplace, from a formal place. Oftentimes, people using their that is their dean, their HODs as reference in school. Now you find out that because there are so much people in school, it's important that when they have so much people using one particular person for reference, they might not be able to know everybody that is using them for reference. So when you, who is the recruiter, calls, you see at the end of the day, the response you will get will not be so great because it's going to be generic. It's just going to be yes, he's a good person. Now describe who the person is. The reference may not even be able to describe or give good details about that person. So you may just want to say something good about that person without even knowing clearly the main person who owns the name or the identity you're trying to present to them. So that is done. Let's go ahead to talk about the steps to conducting a reference. When you're about to conduct a reference as a recruiter, introduce yourself. State the purpose for which you have made, for which you are there. If you are there physically, state your purpose. If you're there, if you're making a call or you're sending a mail, of course, introduce yourself in that mail, introduce yourself in the call. Physically introduce yourself, state your purpose, familiarize with them, then go ahead and go straight to the point. Do not go back and forth and the rest of that. Okay, now we'll go ahead to talk about the questions that you should ask when it comes to reference check. When you are verifying a candidate, or when you are making a reference check, ensure that you verify the candidate's name. Be certain that they know the person that you want to conduct reference on. It's not that okay, they just okay, who are you talking about? Because by the time you need to ask key questions, that is when you know if they practically knows that they know that candidate well or they do not know that candidate. So one is that you have to verify the candidate's name. Then two is that how did they get to know the candidate? Of course, they have to give you those information, have to give you those details. More important, it's always very good to send reference via an email such that it is documented. You get to know where it is. Of course, I'm not going to be doing the reference. Like you need that reference via an email. It's great like that because at the end of the day, if you go physically, you want them to do either they have to give you a written copy to that's what as a backup and as a proof, because that's what they're going to be filing and that's what the report they're going to be giving to the management. Okay, then we'll go ahead to talk about when you have asked how they get to know, they ensure that you find out what makes the candidate a good fit for the role. Have them rate and rank the candidates, of course, very much important. When you find out why they think that that candidate is good for the role that they're applying for in the organization that's interested in, or for the clients that we work for, then you want to also find out you want to have them rate that particular candidate on a scale of 1 to 10, on a scale of that's 10% to 100. Then find out their strengths, their weaknesses. These are the things that you want to find out, and the candidates' behavior and conduct while they were there with their previous employer. This is very much important because it will help you to understand the kind of person that you are dealing with, that profile that you are dealing with. Then, what are the tips for reference check? Of course, you have to review the answers that you got from the reference. Then, always ensure that you express urgency and seriousness. Well, let me restate on that first one that talks about reviewing answers that you get from references. Remember, you're conducting reference with or not just one reference. you're up to 2 or 3 references. So when you discuss with those 2 or 3 references, you want to review the answers you get from the 3 of them, because you're going to make a report at the end of the day. Then, secondly, you want to express urgency, because if you leave there without expressing that urgency, without establishing the urgency of that report, they might just shove it under the shelf, and at the end of the day, you remind us and keep, and they don't even take you serious. So you need to ensure that you express the urgency and the seriousness of the reference that the reference statement you need from them. They'll go ahead to talk about the minimum of course, you have to conduct reference on a minimum of 2. So minimum of 2 references each time you take a reference detail from a candidate or from an applicant. It has to be a minimum of 2. Then, fourthly, draft your questions before you begin to engage. Take, for instance, if you're making a call, you are visiting the organization that's of this, there's the organization of that particular candidate previously where they worked. You have to ensure that your thoughts are well aligned, and not at the end of the day, the key things you want to ask, you forget them when you have ended the call and you remember them. So it's not going to make sense that you call them back again and begin to ask questions over and over again. All the questions you need to ask, write them down if you need to. Then you keep a place for the answers. So as you get the answers to the questions that you ask, you write them down. You write down both the question, you write down both the answer, so you don't forget any of them. Sometimes we could believe that we have a computer brain that we can be able to get all the reference, we can get all the answers magneted in our minds. So at the end of when we finish the call, we can now start writing. We can now start putting that down. Sometimes you may forget, because some questions might lead to another. Some questions might lead to another, and at the end of the day, the first thing that was said, you forget them. So you don't want to come and start reacting the question again. It seems as though you're not listening when we were saying it the first time. So now let's go ahead and talk about fake references. Pay close attention to fake references. Sometimes most people can just use their brothers and their sisters, put the details of their friends in the place of a human resource manager, or in the place that's a colleague or a supervisor. So just put the contact number there. So people these days, they do a lot of things. So as a recruiter, you must be certain that whoever it is that you are discussing with over the phone, this whoever they claim they are exactly who they are. Now, one of the major things you can do is by asking those work-related questions. So if the person is not within the workspace, never worked with them as a colleague, you will find that from the questions. Okay, of course, because there are strategies, we have our methodologies, and also every single thing that you require when come on board will be given to you. Okay, then let's go ahead and talk about the last one. It says always take notes. I just made reference to that because most people might think I have a computer mind, a computer brain, I can just magnate every single thing. Take notes, very, very important. That's just summary of that. Then what is the template? What exactly? By the time you are done with your reference check, you're expected to provide details of that reference that you have conducted. So now, how do you now write your reference report? Now, the details that are going to be embedded in that reference report is very much important, because you're going to be having the dates included in that particular reference report. You're going to be that's part of the details that are going to be in the reference report to include the date, the candidate's name, the reference details. That's the candidate name. Then you talk about the reference details. You talk about the list of the candidates. That's the list of the questions that were asked. You talk about the response to that's the response that you got from that reference report. Then you go ahead to talk about it was conducted by who? You, who is the reference. So you are putting your full name there. Then at the end of the day, you append the signature. So I'll take that again. In the reference report, what exactly do you put down when you're writing your reference report? You including the date which the reference was conducted, the candidates on which the reference was conducted, then the reference details, whoever the details of the 2 references. Now putting them, or the 3 references, you put their details there. Then the list of the questions, the responses, then conducted by you, the recruiter. Then finally, you talk about that's conducted by you, and you append your signature to that particular reference report. I think that is that. Now, This brings us to a close of that second section. The third one, this is a very short training. I already established that earlier. So I was saying that the third one is going to be on background verification. So when we're done with the background verification, please, if you have any question, kindly ensure that you write them down. We'll take all the questions together at the same time. Okay, now background verification. What exactly is it? What are you do? What are you to do with background verification? But we need to understand what it is first before we begin to engage with background verification. Now, background verification aims to confirm the claim of that candidate. So if you're doing a background verification on a candidate, what you just want to do is you want to ensure that, oh, this person said that they worked as a business development manager in that organization, or they work as a line manager in XYZ organization. So you want to find out, is it true that they actually worked as a line manager, or are they just framing that they work as a line manager in any organization? So by doing this, this is where background verification does. Then we'll go ahead to also check under background verification. You also want to find out, did they commit fraud where they were working? There are basic information about that particular background verification. So, but we'll talk about that subsequently. Okay, now the state background verification aims to confirm or verify the claims of the candidate. Now, what exactly are we verifying and how do we verify them? That's what we're going to be talking about now. We'll talk about so one of them is the previous employment. So the places where they have worked before, who they worked with, the people they worked for, the company they worked for, the people they worked with. So this um the previous places of employment is very, very much important when it comes to background verification. We're asking questions in that place. Remember earlier when we were talking about reference check, we made mention about certain things. So, but in this one, you want to verify a whole lot of things. The claims, both the salary that they claimed, the what they claimed that they did for that organization, the accomplishment, that every single claim that they made. That is what you are verifying there. Then academic qualification. When it comes to academic qualification, all the trainings, their certificates, the academic certificates, the professional certificates, professional memberships that they have, associations that they have. So all those certificates that they have, they also need to verify the authenticity of those certificates by reaching out to the organization and finding out, oh, did XYZ train with you, or did XYZ graduate from this school? That's exactly what or is XYZ a member of this professional body? That is what the verification aims to do. Then we talk about criminal records. Of course, most more importantly, this is where the records are checked with the law enforcement agencies to ensure that they have a record that is clean, that has a bill of that has a bill of clean health. So that is that. We want to check with the law enforcement agencies to ensure that this person has no baggage with them. Then reference details, of course, verifying the reference details. I already talked about that more extensively in the other that's in the previous module. Then let's talk about the guarantor details. More importantly, you are verifying the guarantor details where people so that people do not just provide any details about guarantors who are not untrue, who are guarantors that do not exist. So that's exactly what some of the things that are going to be confirming. Then the employees' address also are verified. So as a recruiter, these are the key things that you're going to be verifying, and others as well. Are going to be verifying with regards to the candidates that needs to be hired. Okay, then what are the benefits of background verification? Why exactly do organizations conduct background verification? Then, not just only that, why exactly should you, who is the recruiter, conduct background verification? One is that it mitigates risk. What kind of risk does it mitigate? Now, well, so that we do not end up hiring the wrong person into the organization, and you do not end up getting query for hiring the wrong person as a recruiter. You don't get query for hiring the wrong person into the organization. That is what it does. That's one of the major benefits. It mitigates those risks of oh, if we had known or had we known, we should not have hired this particular person. Now, it also curbs fraudulent activities. In verifying all this information, very much in verifying the details of that particular candidate, any candidate that is prone to fraud, of course, the previous person that they worked will get information about that. if such a candidate defrauded the organization, you will know about that. Then also it ensures safety in the workplace. We don't want to go and hire someone who previously murdered their fellow colleague, or who previously or who is a violent person, or who always fights in the workplace, or who always break people, that is use instruments and fights in the workplace and injures people in the workplace. So you don't want such kind of people. People are hot tempered and those stuff. Yes, they might look so cool, but when they lose their cool, they get to become so violent that they cannot be tamed. So these kind of issues, of course, there are people. These certain traits cannot be may not be easily detected. But when these verifications are being done, we get this information. Hiring is the right person, and we made the right choice. So then we also go ahead to talk about the legal and regulatory compliance. So what we are in compliance legally. So we're hiring according to law. We're hiring according to regulatory compliance as stated. I think that brings us to a close. So we ensure that we hire the right person. We ensure that the hiring process is that it follows due diligence. If it is legal, everything that we do is properly conducted. I think that is that. Okay, I think that brings us to a close of this particular training. It's a very short one. That's this last one is a very short one, and but even though it's very impactful, it has a lot of details in it. So if I expect you to ask your questions where you have one. Okay, I think I'll begin to now. You can just begin to drop your questions in the comment section while I go ahead and pick them. Hold on. I think I picked the previous questions that already have been dropped. Okay, it says from Constance. Constance is saying, greetings, sir. Okay, I want to know if your placements are hybrid or on-site. If on-site, then what is the location? Okay. I wouldn't know where this question is coming from. Is it with regards to the training that we're doing? So I think the question from Constance is out of play. We're talking about the questions with regards to this training that has been done. So that's the question we're talking about. So please ask questions with regards to this training. So I think that is that. But with regards to the placements of choice talent, of course, we have full-time on-site, then we have full-time hybrid, and we'll have also. I think if I'm going to debate a little to answer some of to answer your question, but that's that. So we have full-time on-site, we have full-time hybrid, we also have part-time hybrid as well. So it all depends on whichever of the positions you're going for with choice talent. So I think but that question is not related to what we are doing. Okay, let me go ahead and take other questions. Okay, that's from Marcus Daniel Locke. He says, good morning. Do management offer remote placement? Um, of course, the management offer remote placement, but that question is not in line with what we just did now. Yes, they offer remote placement if that's the question you have. Then Olawale Yesal says, how do we check for criminal records in Nigeria? Of course, that's with the law enforcement agencies. That's where these records are. That's where you can get the records, or that's where you can verify any information. The law enforcement agencies, just visit any of them and file your report, or file your inquiry, and you get a report from them. That's how it's done. Okay, then I think Aparo Golucci says, what is the difference between a guarantor and a person used as a reference? Okay, a guarantor and a reference are not the same thing. Oluchi, please take note. A guarantor and a reference are not the same thing. The reference are people who more importantly, are people who know you very well, who can give detailed information about you, who can say something about you. These are reference. And when we're talking about reference, we are saying suitable reference are not necessarily your brothers and your sisters and your relatives. Suitable reference are people, because you are applying for a job. So you need people within that particular space. You need, if, like for instance, if you do not have experience, that is where, if let's say you're a fresher, then where you can now use your lecturers. That is where those ones come in. You can now use your pastors, your imam. You can use, that's where those ones come in. But more importantly, not just using relatives, no, but you use For that reference, you want to use people. When it comes to guarantors, that is where you can now use relatives. That's where guarantor, that's where those ones come in. But guarantors, who guarantors are people who will stand for you and vouch for you and say, oh, hire Oparogo Oluchi. If she makes away with anything in the organization, and we are going to make it right. That is who a guarantor is. But a reference is saying Oluchi Oparogo is a nice person, is a great person. She's ready to work. In fact she's of great attitude, she's of great conduct in the workplace. These two people are not the same. The reference is speaking for you, is giving the right word for you, putting in the right word for you. Why your guarantor is standing in and saying, hire Oluchi. In fact, I'm going to bear the risk should she destroy or make away with the company property. Well, I'm going to make that right. That is who a guarantor is. They are two different people. Okay, I think Emmanuel Peter says that's a great breakdown from me. Okay, my question is reference check is reference check not part of background check of an applicant? Of course, yes, they are background check, but sometimes they are broken down into that. They are for proper identification. They are broken down so that you know what a reference check is and a background. So, but oftentimes in the broad sense of it, they are all background check, or they can be called a verification that is being done on a profile verification. So you hear about profile verification, it is still the same thing. You hear about background check, it can be used as an all-encompassing word. But when we are when we are talking about reference check, it is direct, it is clear that the people that are being contacted are the reference, But when you're talking about background check is broad. Background check, you're checking about criminal record. You're doing there's a whole lot. If you check the training manual that's sent to you, see the list of the things that you are doing under background check. You see that the reference is also a part of it. You will see that reference is also a part of it. The background check is broad, is very, very broad in its scope, and a lot of the things that you want to verify. That is what it does. So the background check can also be switched to a verification report or a profile verification. But when it comes to reference check is specific. It focuses on the reference. I think that answers the question. Okay, can a referee be used as a guarantor? Of course, most organizations will not allow that, and I think your referees are different and your guarantors are different. For most organizations, they won't allow that. At Trust and we don't allow that. So your guarantors are different from your referees. So your referees, I just made a clear statement now when I was explaining to saying that who your reference are and who your guarantors are, they're two different. Okay, so they'll talk about Organic Emmanuel says, what's the percentage chances of someone with zero experience in getting hired by a recruiter? Okay, Emmanuel, I would rather say that's why you have training. That's why you have very training process. There are a lot of there are openings where people without experience are hired and trained on the job. You get a pre-training, and you now continue your training by work on the job. As you work on the job, you learn. So, but that basic, so you don't just don't just look like someone who fall down from the sky. That's why you are getting some basic training. Like for instance, now what you're doing now, if you get shortlisted on the role and you function as a recruiter, now you have some ample understanding. But so when certain things are being said, you're not looking as though you're falling down from the sky. You understand exactly. Okay, this is what it's okay. This is what is expected. So it's expected, even though you have not done them. You have not practicalized them. That's what we are saying here. So, but it is not a zero chance. It's not there are chances that people with zero experiences get job. If not, where would the people with how do the people with zero experiences finally get the experience that they require to get the job? Of course, people give them a chance. Employers give them a chance. That's how they're able to build their experience. Nobody acquired experience from the university. They actually worked to get their experiences. So that is how it works. Of course, there are employers that give chances to people with zero experiences and they get hired. Okay, I think that is that. Moses Etokana says, does criminal records disqualify anyone from employment? Practically, yes. Criminal records can disqualify people from employment if they have a criminal record. If it is clear that, oh, this person have engaged in certain, take for instance, someone who have engaged in fraudulent activities and were locked up by their previous employers before, let's say they were locked up in two different places for defrauding on for defrauding two different organizations on different cases. Yeah, by either by pilfering, by theft, or by inflation of values. So you can imagine if they've been locked up, and there's a record about all these things where they were detained and the rest of that. So if you as an employer, does it make sense for you to go and hire that person so you can be defrauded the third time? So that is so criminal records definitely can disqualify people for certain roles. Now, if that person is now also applying for a financial role again, so that's going to be a major issue. Take for instance, if somebody has been disqualified before for the purpose of stealing, that is have been arrested or have issues have a criminal record of for stealing or for robbery before, and at the end of the day you hire such a person maybe to come and become your driver because you say it's not a financial role, right? You're going to be leaving your vehicle in the hands of that person. What if that person takes your vehicle and sell them, or sells your vehicle and relocates? So is that what you want? You definitely, people with criminal record, of course, will definitely have issues. Of course, there might be certain roles where they certain roles where they might not be, where the activities or what they have, the records that they have, the criminal record that they have may not impact. One of them is more like labors, direct labors on, maybe let's say direct labors on farmland, direct labor on construction sites, those kind of direct labors where they don't um, deal directly with certain things that can be stolen or can be that might develop issues tomorrow. So in those instances, maybe they can be considered to take on those roles, even though they might have criminal records before. So, but things that would lead to another record again, to another arrest, so they will have to deliberately avoid it. Okay, I think that is that. Let's go ahead to talk about the next one. It says, they usually say we should use available on request for our referees instead of stating them out on our CV. Is it advisable to put them out that way? Well, I think I discussed extensively on this message yesterday. That, for instance, because you are the one that is applying on your CV, you are the one that is using your CV to do the application. It is important that you put your own information full and complete there. But when it comes to that of your reference, your referees, sometimes for the purpose of data safety, you want to be sure, you want to keep the information of your referees available on request and the information of your guarantors available on request. Of course, when you get the job, sorry, not when you get the job, before you get the job, if your profile is good or if your profile is great and they want that is suitable for that particular role, the HR person, the recruiter is going to ask you to provide the reference. You provide your reference information. So it's at that stage you provide that reference information. And it's not just that your reference information is on your CV and you're spreading them across everywhere. It is your own information that should be there. Should in case they take for instance there are opportunities. So as your CV gets to that particular HR and they want to contact you, they can contact you. So when you find a situation where somebody removes your information that you should we use to locate your contact you is away from your CV, but your reference information is there on your CV. Are your reference being employed or you are the one that's being employed? So it is your own information that should be full and detailed on your CV. Your information, your priorities, everything should be full and completed on your CV. Then the information that should be kept available on request, your reference information for at least for their own privacy. So that is the way I see it. But it is not wrong that if should you decide to just put your reference information there, it is not wrong either. But what we're saying is for their own privacy because they don't know that you're applying for jobs. So you don't go ahead. You're the one that is applying for job. It is your own information that should be on that CV. So when their details are needed, you will be contacted. Of course, as you are being trained for as a recruiter role, when you get to once a profile is great, what you're supposed to do is to pick the phone and call that person if there are no reference, or send the email. More importantly, it's not to call, but to send the email such that the person can reply to the mail and provide the reference details with all the information that you will need about that particular reference. I think that's that. Okay, so first to Sudoma says, good morning. Okay, please, if a role requires soft skills and you met a candidate who really can speak to convince you that she had that skill, how do you ascertain when it comes to soft skills? Okay, now when we're talking about soft skills, I want to understand what you mean by soft skill. When you're talking about soft skill, are they digital skills or are they technical skills? Because I need to understand. But I will answer them that way. When you're talking about soft skills now, soft skills maybe or is it about that speaking skills which falls under those ones? But if it is digital skills, of course, if it is, let's say, digital skills, one of them is about maybe, let's say, graphics design. You're not going to be telling me that you can design with your mouth. I want to see it. I want to see what you have done before. If you're a software developer, which is also a digital skill, I want to see it. I want to see evidence of what you have developed before. That is it. So there's no story about it. And right there while you are being interviewed, remember I said that yesterday, maybe you were not part of the class or you were not listening at that particular time. Then what I said there, if I were to interview a software developer, or not after we finish discussing, yes, I want you to go to the practical. Develop something. I want to see you develop something right there in my presence. I want to see it happen right there in my presence. Something might be so small, but I want to see it work. I want to see that you can do something. That's exactly what we're talking about. So now let's take, for instance, the technical skill. You are being hired for as an office assistant, and you are very great. I see everything. Okay, so how do I test for? Hello. Oh, Cynthia, you are great. I think I like. Okay, now let's move on to the practical. Come and operate this machine. Come and operate that. Because you're coming to the office to administer every single thing that is within the office space. That's what you're there to do. So we want to test it right there. So I think that is very clear. How you will test for the skills is different from people speaking that can speak so great, convince you. That is at the end of the day, they have to come and practicalize whatever they say that they can do. If you can do this, come and prove it. That's exactly what it is. Okay. I think I answered your question there. Chidalu says, he said questions. Okay, okay, all right. A man on Saturday, okay, is still asking a question. If a person is qualified for a job role by other criteria, but the person often switches from one firm to another, um, is that enough reason to disqualify them? Wait, I don't get your question very well. Okay, it says if a person is qualified for a job role by other criteria, but the person often switches from one firm to the other. Okay, maybe you did not understand what we are saying here, Peter. It is what I'm saying is very, very clear. When someone is suitable for a particular role, has the desired skill, has all the requisites, but in 1 year they have worked in 6 organizations. What does that tell you? It practically says that they cannot stay. If such a person is hired, you also need to start preparing for another recruitment in the next 3 months because this person is not going to stay. They are in the past 1 year, they have worked for 6 different organizations. Why did you leave? You resigned. Why did you leave? You resigned. Why did you leave? You resigned. That is the same thing that we're talking about because they lack staying power. They lack staying power. They will not start having that staying power when they get to choice talent. They will not. They will start. They will definitely leave in the next 3 months, or even the next 2 months, or the next 1 month. They will leave. There are people like that. Once they get a job, the following day they begin to apply for jobs other places at the same time. So they are not even waiting. They keep on applying. So that's what it means. So I think if you misunderstand that, this is exactly what we are saying here. So in that instance, that particular person does not have the staying power. They cannot stay. No matter what you do, no matter how you pamper them on it, they cannot stay. That is it. Okay, so now we'll go on to talk about Obioma. Obioma says, thank you so much for the training. If a candidate gave false reference about his previous job, what measures can be taken to verify this? Of course, what if you verify take for instance, they are to provide the phone number, the email, the contact address. It's either the office address. So by the time if you call the number, it is the wrong person that is speaking. You send the mail, the mail is not being replied by the right person, it's not being replied by the right person, or you visit the workplace and the person that they are saying, the person that they listed there is non-existent in that particular workplace, or the address is false. There's nothing to do there other than disqualify the candidate. That is just what it is. So you cannot, as a candidate, provide the wrong reference. The automatic thing is to disqualify the candidate. That is it. So I think that answers. That's what the measure that needs to be taken with regards to that particular candidate. That answers the question. Okay. I think there are no further questions. That's the last question there from Obioma. Okay, with regards to that, so since there are no more questions, we will be bringing the recruiter training to a close. And I think in the group chat, the admin is definitely going to give further information about what there's the further steps that needs to be taken with regards to the learning assessment. Okay, I think that is done, and by that we'll bring this learning to a close. Okay, hold on. Okay, I there are two questions that are coming in now. And if I take these two questions, I'm going to be ending the class now. Okay, so that's Lanihon Menurat is saying, will a candidate be disqualified from a recruitment, that's a requirement process, if he or she has an arrest record before? Okay, that is not what I'm saying. We're talking about a criminal record. Somebody might be arrested, but they are not. That does not mean that they were involved in a criminal activity. People who are doing their own, who were found in the wrong places at the wrong time, can be arrested, but that does not mean that they are criminals. They are two. Criminal record is different from arrest. Please, that is very that that point is very, very important, and be very clear about that. I think that is that. Royal Court says, these are, do management give remote placement or must it be physical? They are remote placement and they are physical placement. I have answered this before. They are remote, and they are remote placements, which you have full-time hybrid and a partial that is a hybrid and that is, we have full-time, hybrid, and remote. So they are there. So they are all there. So the management does offer this. So I think that I answered your questions. Okay, please, that brings the class to a close. And if you have other questions, you might just go ahead and drop them, but we're not going to answer them. Maybe in subsequent sessions, we might just provide answers to those questions. All right, I think that is that. The further directives will be given in the group, so you can just adhere to them and follow through, so that you go to the stage of the learning assessment. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you for your time.